Hey, look what come in the mail. It's a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. What's in the box? Well, protector, and handheld. What color did we get? Ooh. Look at that. They sent us that beautiful, translucent ice blue. I love it. As a quick refresher, this comes with a Dimensity 1100 chip. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It has 128 gigabytes internal and an SD card. It has a fan. It's got a 4.7-inch touchscreen. It'll output video up to 720p. It has Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5, and all your normal bells and whistles. Ooh, it also has Android 13. Now, this isn't going to be a full review per se, because we've done this to death. This is going to be a comparison against the Anbernic 556. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is a little more expensive, it's a little smaller, and it's also a little more powerful. So which one of these will come out on top in a head-to-head showdown? I gotta tell you right away, the feel of this plastic is a lot better than the 556. It has a texture to it. It feels like I'm not going to drop it. It has that amazing D-pad we saw on the RP2S. It has these very nice Hall joysticks. They feel very, very smooth. Face buttons, a little small for my taste, but that's okay. You have your start, select, your back, your home, your L and R, which aren't super loud, your analog triggers, which have a nice feel to them. You have your power on the top, your volume on the top, fan exhaust on the top, and HDMI out. And on the bottom, your USB-C port, headphone jack, I like that, and your SD card. So let's turn this sucker on. Ooh. But first, a word from our sponsor. Well, how am I... This is just so frustrating. If only there was a better way.
What if there was?
You're back? You're back again, mysterious voice?
Try this.
Oh.
The UGREEN RevoDock Pro 210 is a 10-in-1 USB-C docking station with 2 HDMI ports, a 5 gigabits per second USB-C port, 1 USB-A 3.0 port, 2 USB-A 2.0 ports, 100 watts of power delivery, an Ethernet connection, and an SD and micro SD card reader. And by the way, with those 2 HDMI ports, you can either connect 2 4K displays or 1 8K display. Wow! Your eyes won't even know what to do. The RevoDock Pro is currently on sale at Amazon for 29% off, but those savings won't last forever. Click the link in the video description to get yours today.
Did anyone else hear that? No? Alright, let's unplug these two and get to it. Here we have our screen comparison, both on maximum brightness, both running the same game. To my eye, this is more of a blue, cooler screen, and this is warmer. They both look pretty good. It's honestly just a subtle difference. This is just warmer, this is cooler, but you really start to see the difference, almost a full inch in difference between the 4.7-inch screen and the 5.5-inch screen. This is also OLED. I think in pretty much every terms, without even getting into the nebulous area of is there ghosting on this, I think the 556 screen wins hands down, unless for whatever reason you hate OLED and you hate having a bigger screen. You know what? Some people are crazy. That's okay. No judgment. Basic ergonomic comparison. The 556 is wider, it's thicker, and of course it has these big chonkin grips on the back. This is a flat but curved, but still nonetheless flat rectangle. It comes with grips, but that's an extra $15. It is interesting. A lot of people I know that have an RP4 and an RP4 Pro opt for the grips. There's just something about being able to wrap your fingers around here and have something to hold on to. And it just naturally flows into your hands. So no matter what your grip style is, you're still going to have something in the palm of your hand that you can kind of pivot around, wrap your fingers around. The RP4 Pro, it doesn't have that. You might have a grip like this, you might have a grip like this. It's not going to be super noticeable if you play for, 15, 20 minutes and walk away. But if you really want to get into a game and play for an hour, 2, 3 hours maybe, my experience with the Retroid Pocket 3 and with other similar flat candy bar handhelds without these grips, your thumbs start to hurt. You start to have weird fatigue in your hands. Nothing crippling. You don't have to go to the doctor. It just makes it uncomfortable. And if it's uncomfortable, maybe you don't want to play anymore. And you can see why pretty much simultaneously with this being released, the grips also came out. When it comes to the button ergonomics, first of all, you have a real big choice. Are you D-pad top or D-pad bottom? If you are a militant, then one of these is obviously going to be the superior choice for you. I'm somewhat D-pad location agnostic. It's not that hard for me to just mentally swap that around. All that being said, I think Retroid Pocket 4 has the buttons beat basically on the sticks and this amazing D-pad. Now these face buttons are pretty clicky and they feel small to me. And they're also not super proud. The Anbernic ones, not as clicky, and they feel, I don't know, they just feel, they're slightly bigger. If you want to compare them, they're slightly bigger than this, but they just feel, I don't know, they feel right. It's not super scientific, but they feel right to me. The sticks on the 556, on the other hand, not nearly as good as these sticks. And this D-pad, I don't mind the D-pad. It throws off a lot of false diagonals. It's big, which I actually kind of appreciate, but this D-pad that they've had on this and the RP2S, it's, oh boy, I tell you what, this is a really, really good D-pad. It doesn't throw off a lot of false diagonals, no matter how hard you try, and it's just a solid D-pad. Start, select, back, and home, that's a wash. I don't give a hoot for where the volume and the power buttons are, except that they're on top, and they are in the correct orientation for me, and that's about it. This has HDMI out at 720p. This, you can do video out with USB-C, but this does have a dedicated HDMI port, so you could have this plugged in and hooked into the TV. Another spot where I think the Retroid product beats the Anbernic product is these analog triggers. Now, that being said, there have been a lot of reports that these guys go snappy snappy, but these feel a little better to me, but a lot of it has to do with this textured diamond print they have on here. Makes it feel like my fingers aren't going to slide off, whereas this is just smooth. And then the L and the R buttons, see, these guys are slightly clicky compared to, so Anbernic sounds like a computer mouse. And the Retroid one, not as bad. Retroid also goes the whole way around, so you have way more surface area. Anbernic is just this button right here, but a little bit bigger than the width of my thumb, whereas the Retroid over here, looped the whole way around, which I like. So I think, Retroid probably narrowly wins on controls, but overall loses in the ergonomic battle. I just really like these Donkadonk grips here. When it comes to comparing the performance of these two handhelds, I've tried a couple games on each system, but I'm only going to show you the most difficult to run or the most marginal game that maybe barely plays on this or slightly doesn't play, and we're going to show how it performs on the RP4 Pro. I feel like rather than doing a 50-minute long dedicated showcase of each system, this is a good way to show you the performance difference between these two handhelds. Okay, first off, we're going to compare God of War 2. Now for the 556, in order to get it to play at 1.5 native on Vulkan, I had to bump the underclocking to 1, a mild underclock. Otherwise, it plays pretty smooth at 1.5. Whoa! Ugh. Yikes. You can see it's still kind of struggling in this boss fight scene. If we bump it all the way down to 1x, it should run really smooth. But you lose a little bit of that graphic fidelity. Now let's see how that same exact part of the game plays on the RP4. On the RP4 we have no underclocking, and the graphics are at 2x native with that same Vulkan renderer. Now we are experiencing a similar amount of slowdown, but you gotta remember we're at twice the resolution with no underclocking. So when we put the RP4 Pro head to head with the 556 when it comes to PlayStation 2, the RP2 Pro is about twice as better, at least in God of War. And this basically tracks with all of your higher end PlayStation 2 games. Anything that this can play at 1 or 1.5, this can play at 2 or 2.5. It seems to be able to handle about twice the resolution. Now, part of me wonders if that's because this is just an overall smaller screen size, but there is a real disparity between these two chipsets. Now, they'll both play PS2, and they'll both play most PS2 games at over 1x, but if you have some higher-end PS2 games you desperately want to play at high resolutions, the RP4 Pro is going to be your best bet. Moving on to GameCube. We're going to play Medal of Honor Frontline. We're going to just verify here. So we're doing 3x, which is 1080p. We have Vulkan backend, specialized the default shaders, and pretty much all your normal settings. We're going to go into Medal of Honor Frontline and see how it runs.
Damn it! We gotta get the water clear!
Okay.
Patterson, you're up. Get over here.
What?
Private Jones has enough Bangalore to clear a hole in the wire, but he's been behind that Belgian gate down the line. Help Jones back to our position. We'll give you cover fire.
Because he's shooting Germans. Leave me alone.
Covering fire! Go, go, go!
Oh. Some slow down there. Now on the RP4 we have Medal of Honor Frontline. Internal resolution is again set to 3x native. We have Vulkan backend, default shader mode, and auto aspect ratio. So let's go and give it a shot.
Iverson, get out there and retrieve those Bangalores!
Oh, okay.
Damn it! We gotta get the water clear! Patterson, you're up. Get over here.
Ooh.
Patterson! I won't make it back with this.
Ooh, machine gun. So again, the RP4 Pro and the 556 will play the same GameCube games. It's just the RP4 can handle a slightly higher resolution with less dips. Obviously, it's going to play these higher end systems slightly better than the 556. But again, 556, better hand feel and better screen. Oh, let's do some 3DS. So for 3DS, we're going to take Xenoblade Chronicles, which almost runs on the 556. Now we're using the December 22nd build of Citra MMJ, because I feel that gives the best performance overall. And we have it set to 1x resolution, dual cores, everything's identical, but it will be at 1x. Ugh. Not great. Same version of Citra MMJ. We have 1x resolution, dual core, everything else is the same. So let's try Xenoblade Chronicles. Now you know what? It's only marginally better, but it is enough to have this play at roughly, where'd you guys come from? Roughly 30 FPS. It's not chugging as bad, and it's actually a much more pleasant experience to play this. I feel like I'm actually playing it, as opposed to a PowerPoint slideshow. And next, we're going to end our showcase with Switch. Now, don't get too excited, because Switch doesn't play amazing on both of them, but you can eke out performance on some of these games. We're doing Star Ocean, the second story. We're going to do it at 1x, and we're going to try to play it in docked mode, just for fun. Here we are in the overworld of the first village, and we're averaging about 12 FPS. Now, if we bump this down to handheld mode and bump it down to 0.75, this is really playable. But I wanted to show this marginal test case where we are running around at 12 FPS through this village because we are at a full 1080p, which is ideally suited to the screen, but the processor can't handle it. So let's see how she runs on the RP4 Pro. So on the RP4, just to show you again, we are at 1x resolution and we are going for docked mode. Everything else is the same. And you see we're in that same spot on the RP4 Pro, same settings, and we're averaging, between 8 and maybe 10 FPS better than we were on the 556. And that performance ratio is pretty accurate with a lot of the games I've tested. Certain games, like Super Mario Wonder, neither of them run well at all, even at 0.5. But any game that was marginal on the 556, you get between a 5 and 10 point FPS bump, which in some cases is enough to take the game from unplayable to playable, and in some cases it'll even take the game from being marginal to fully playable and actually fun to play. So, Gary, it's that time. What did we learn? We learned that the RP4 Pro and the Anbernic 556 are both very, very, very good handhelds, especially for their price range. This comes in as cheap as $170 with free shipping included from Go Game Geek, whereas this will set you back upwards and over $200, maybe $215 with your cheaper shipping option that you would get directly from Retroid. Now, if these get into the hand of distributors, then the prices might go down. But for right now, we'll say $170 versus $215. And my math says that's about a $45 difference. You're also not factoring in that you will probably want to get a grip for this, which is an extra $15. So then you bump it up to $60 difference. Maybe you don't need a grip, whatever. But there is a very clear price difference between the two. And there are other differences. One, the 556, I feel, is much, much more ergonomic. It has these grips. It has a better feel. It's thicker. I haven't dropped this once. I've dropped this handheld probably 5 or 6 times just because it's thin. And even though it has this nice grip to it, which originally I thought would make it easy to hold, it doesn't have any nubs or anything on the back. So you don't really have anything to hold on to. So if you're moving it around and it just drops out. Whereas this, you got a grip on it. It's just your hand naturally rolls around it. So I think when it comes to ergonomics, the 556 wins. There are some slight differences, such as the buttons, the D-pad, the sticks on here are better. But overall ergonomics, I think the 556 wins. The 556 also wins, as you might have gathered from my numbers, in price to performance ratio. You can get this for as cheap as $170 shipped versus roughly $40, $45 more for this shipped. And when you're talking about a sub $200 or an around $200 handheld, $45, $50, now you're talking about this being 25% more expensive. I personally feel in this particular arena where the RP4 is fighting the 556, that $45 difference is a big difference, because if I really want higher end things, I can get an Odin 2, I can get a Steam Deck, I can get something that is going to definitely play Switch games and definitely not have any problems with PlayStation 2 at 3x or 4x. This wins in performance, but I feel like that price ratio, it skews the win in performance a little bit down. And of course, the screen. The 556 screen is bigger, it's more vibrant, it's OLED, and I think just in every situation, this screen wins out. I feel like there's not really an argument to be made that the RP4 Pro screen is better just because of how good this screen is. Now, if you disagree, feel free to make a stink in the comments. I mean, go nuts. That's your right as a free citizen. But I think most rational, free-thinking adults would agree that this is a better screen across all possible metrics. So I don't know if you were doing the math along with me. This wins in ergonomics, this wins in better screen, and this definitely wins in price to performance ratio. But the RP4 clearly wins when it comes to performance. So I can't unequivocally say get the 556, because if you are in a space where you don't have enough money for an Odin 2 or a Steam Deck or anything, and this is at the max end of your budget, technically, performance-wise, you would be getting more bang for your buck because this performs better. And, in this game we have on the screen right here, there's a 10 FPS difference. That could take a game from being unplayable on here to playable on here. In the grander scheme of things, where you're looking for a mid-range handheld, I still think the 556 is the best performance to value proposition, just because you're getting marginally less. You're still able to play a bunch of PlayStation 2 games. You can play a bunch of GameCube games. You can play 3DS on here beautifully. You're not going to be able to play it at as high of a resolution, and you're going to miss out on some Switch games. But the Switch games the RP4 will play are marginal. So in the grand scheme of things, if you're looking for a mid-range handheld, I would have to say get the 556, just because it flat out wins in 3 of the 4 categories. Now, I've probably stirred up the hornet's nest of the Retroid fanboys, and potentially I've angered the Anbernic people, or people think I'm an Anbernic stan, or they think that I hate Retroid out of spite. So, of course, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to comment. If you like the video, like and subscribe. And if you want to go on a long-winded diatribe and call me an idiot, then go ahead and join our Discord. All the links are in the description, and let us know what you think. As always, it's your old buddy Zoo. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of your handheld, get 8 hours of milk, always drink your sleep, and don't do school. Goodbye.